of what we are doing. And what we are doing for these young people who are in school is this thing that is simple. And that's more reason we desire that if we could engage more with our faith mother bodies and share these ideas around this, they could see the vision. This is a young person, a global citizen who sings in the choir in that church. That when we begin to pray for them as church leaders, they will be even more blessed because they have knowledge to excel through their life. I chose to end here because time is not on our side.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. I must confess, I was one of the people who was against this. But after listening to this presentation, I think everything has changed. Okay, I'm going to allow 5 questions. And please, with the questions, let's be objective. Let's bring out solutions. Young people are always bringing out, this is a problem, why are you not doing this, why are you not doing this, why are you not doing this? But can we bring out solutions? We have the challenges now. What are the solutions to those challenges?
Thank you. And I'd also like to start by saying thank you to Mr. Remy for a very good presentation that has helped us understand a lot of components about CSE. My name is Ngandu from SAT Zambia, and originally I had 2 questions, but I'll try and see if I can ask as one. And my question is, are there any available avenues for, let's say, updating the curriculum? We know that, number one, the approach it takes is an integrated one, and seeing how our curriculum, our national curriculum, school curriculum doesn't change easily and not so often. Are there avenues of updating the curriculum, also knowing that the context around SRHR
because as the other colleague from UNESCO said, this is not the only government duty to do everything, but we have to work collaboratively with traditional leaders, religious leaders, and our parents, because we all come from parents, we all from home. And other colleagues asking, how do you communicate with your parents that having sex, or you have a boyfriend and things like that? It's very difficult to communicate direct with parents. So we also work with the leaders. We work with organizations like Tanzania Interfaith Partnership. We work close with all religions in Tanzania. When we give CSE, comprehensive sexuality education, it's always about sex. We encourage people to have sex, but that's not the case. I think we all have a right to understand about our body, our health, our well-being, our choices. Which choices? Most of the time, we always want people to make correct choices, but we all been there's a lot of adolescents here. I also been adolescents at once. There's a lot of things which we do we don't know. That's our mistake. We learn from our mistake. If we provide comprehensive sexuality education for HIV prevention, teen pregnancy, like if you have a boyfriend, what not to do,
board chair, and I'd like to ask, you are a reverend as well. Being the custodian of values in society, what do you think can be the role of religious leaders if we are to successfully roll out CSE?
My answer is both chair or as reverend. Both. As reverend. Well, I think I have a scripture that I strongly work with, which is Ecclesiastes 11 and the last verse, which is 10. It actually says, tell the young people to do whatever they want to do, give their hearts whatever they want, but let them know that God will judge them at the end of the day. It's as simple as that. Okay. I'd like to touch on what Remy just talked about. The UN couldn't bring in the EFZ into a meeting, but as ZYP, we managed to have a sit down with the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, and Ngandwe and South Zambia was part of that meeting, I think, in August. And this was their problem. Number one, they said the church mother bodies were never consulted. So in all the credits, we find Zingo in the CSE. Zingo is guys consulted, they said no. They called the Catholics, they asked them, were you consulted? They said no, we were not consulted. They called the Islamic faith, they asked them, were you consulted? They said no, we were not consulted. So all mother bodies said no, we were not consulted and we didn't consent to this. So how come it is being rolled out and everybody is saying, yeah, it is fine? So it's all about a seat on the table. They felt that they never had a seat on the table, and that's what they said. And the other point was that they noticed that there is no role of parents in this current program. Okay, I think two people actually mentioned and asked, what are you doing about the parents? Being kicked out, you're leaving the young people on. So what are you doing about that? Okay, so all in all, that's a church mother body, and as a reverend, personally, I say a seat on the table is always important, but what we all need to understand is that no one owns young people, not even the government, not the CSOs, and not the church. Because you, Zoe, are a Zambian youth, the government doesn't own you. Okay, so none of them owns you, but we are all trying by all means to create a better life for all of them. Okay, so I think what would help is spiritual leaders realizing that they don't own any of the young people.
is somehow promoting young people, is giving rather powers to young people to do sex and whatnot. So is that the main reason why you shut down CSE, or the main reason is because you are not consulted? That is the first question. Then my other question goes to UNESCO. Understanding the influence and power of the media, did you at all, as UNESCO and other, is the promotion of CSE is concerned, involve or incorporate other stakeholders like the church and the parents? Don't you think the fact that people are shooting down CSE is the fact that you did not, number one, consult key stakeholders? The parents are major key stakeholders as far as CSE is concerned, as well as the church. So how could you table something without key stakeholders? Yeah, maybe just comments on this. Thank you.
I'll take one more question and then I'll get responses.
Okay, I'm Zulu Frederick, or I say Fredster. So this question is directed to a representative from the Ministry of Youth and Child Development. From the information that I have is, I'll be specific, which is Eastern Province. I heard that in Eastern Province, over 10,000 young girls in and out of school were pregnant, meaning that is Eastern Province during the time COVID-19, during the outbreak of COVID-19, which is from February up to somewhere in October. We had about over 10,000 girls in and out of school were pregnant. So now, as government, what intervention have you put in place to see that there is the reduction of young girls being pregnant in Eastern Province and other parts of the country? Then my second question is, I wanted to know this general statistics of the adolescents who fell pregnant during COVID-19 period. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those questions. I'll get responses. I think we had two for UNESCO, we had one for the Rev, and we had one for the Ministry of Youth and Sport.
Okay, I will start. Thank you very much. I would like to make mention, first of all, and correct, just in case we have the media here, I am not representing the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia. I'm representing the Zambian Youth Platform. Yeah, the church I belong to is a member of the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia. And what I said was, as ZYP, we didn't want to make pronouncements on the media and begin to argue with church mother bodies. So what we did was we called for a sit down. We called them in. What problems do you have with CSE? And the major problem they had actually two major problems. The first one, like I said, they were never consulted. The second one was the terminologies. Okay? They were so uncomfortable with certain terminologies that are being used in there. And they were like, this is the beginning of acceptance of things that Zambia as a Christian nation is not accepting. Okay? In that you have to accept that the church will drag, whether we like it or we don't like it, the church is going to drag in terms of catching up. They had a problem with Facebook. They thought it's for such until COVID struck and every check is not satanic anymore. So which the reason against it is the terminology is being used and they were not, can go on.
Thank you very much. I mean, and I always wish that we could have shared the platform with Evangelical Fellowship. I really looked forward to this morning. And thank you, Reverend, for having managed to sit down with the Evangelical Fellowship. We continue to say we respect them, and it's really not our battle as UNESCO with them. I think the most important thing we need to know is that we are speaking the same message. The first argument the Evangelical Fellowship had is that they were not consulted. And I want to put it on record, Reverend, that in 2013, at the signing of the ESA commitment in Cape Town, I personally, I was with Bishop Joshua Banda. From Evangelical Board Chair, the 4 ministers, all endorsement as a commitment that supports the CS introduction actually had in Cape Town. And hearing sentiments that they are not consulted at local level here when CSC came, it wasn't a duty for UNESCO to consult. It was a duty of the curriculum specialists who designed the curriculum, revised the curriculum, included CSC, and went around the country, number 1, to consult parents through PTAs. Number 2, to consult stakeholders like civil society and faith leaders. So, for example, I know our dear Reverend here at board chair may not have been around that time for you to be consulted. And if you were not targeted to be consulted among so many of you, and you are likely to come out and say, I was not consulted. But there are a lot of mother bodies that were consulted. To date, that constitutes part of the team of the champions, like Independent Churches Association of Zambia, Reverend Bishop Mathupa, all right, and the Muslim community through Sheikh Yusuf Ayami. We can mention a number of them. But you see, in sampling, do you target everybody? In sampling, you don't target everybody. Right now, government has given a directive that there should be consultation in all the 10 provinces. And this is how the people, the technocrats who are doing the consultations, and in each province they'll sample 3 districts. And those 3 districts, then they'll go to each district and call all the necessary and relevant stakeholders together. So if any district that will not be consulted will arise and say, we're not consulted, how many people can you consult in a national issue like that one? You can't consult everybody, then that becomes a referendum. But this was basically getting views of the people that needed to come around the table and then be consulted and be involved. But I mean, I would want to speak to our parents, Bishop Joshua Banda and my father, Bishop Mususu, who is currently the chair for the CCM. And CCM has just requested and has been awarded a lot of money for CSC in this country, which he is chairperson of. You understand that? So I think the other side we are supporting, the other side we are opposing. I think it would be very good to challenge one another over a table politely and say, parents, what exactly is the issue? Is it the issue of the name? Is it you feeling not consulted? Can you be consulted now? What is your view about this? And in terms of media engagement, this issue was in the media and so on, and even lately, the young man who was consulted from SAT, who was asked a question, the issue was heavily in the media, and up to now, I don't think there's any Zambian. If there's an issue Zambians now know about is the church opposing CSC, because the message has really gone quite wildly. But what we are trying to say is that sometimes we can use information that is not Zambian to say this is what we are teaching our children because I picked it from somewhere. And then we are challenging one another over the table with the information that is Zambian, and that's the information that I brought this morning. It's purely Zambian, it's homegrown, all right? And I'm not showing videos like we saw videos of young people who say, you are free to masturbate. If you're in class, you can leave class and go and masturbate. We don't teach that in Zambia, Reverend. It's not in Zambia, and it cannot be allowed. As I speak to you, I'm one of the leaders in my church. In the first place, I wouldn't have actually accepted to come and speak over things I don't believe. So I think while our parents at EFZ speak the way they speak, they should know that us, their sons, also are leaders. And we subscribe to the faith based in the word of God. And there are certain things I would have said outrightly no to this and yes to that. So, yeah, so I think that's my response to those questions. Maybe the youth.
Thank you so much for that question. We've also realized that due to the COVID, a number of pregnancy rates, a high number of rates will be coming out from this situation. But as the exact statistics, we're yet to get the exact statistics. As you know, COVID hit early this year, so we can't really tell now, but I'm sure there are quite a number of statistics that we'll get. And on the issue of what we're doing, as a ministry, we're trying to popularize the Tune Me platform because we've realized that young people are always busy on Facebook. And throughout the COVID period, most of the young people were ever on Facebook. So we met as a Ministry of Education, Health, and ourselves, and we've partnered. We're raising awareness in schools. I saw some young people that we talked to in Eastern Province. I don't know if they are, they've continued to popularize the platform, but that's one of the things that we're trying to get to do, because when you go on the platform, all these issues that we're talking about, you'll find them there. And we point you to services, healthy services and other services that you'd need to access. So we're really trying to popularize it because we know young people are ever on Facebook. So I hope you got the website, because I know I want to see a lot of you this evening on the platform, because there are a number of educative articles and issues that you young people are facing, and you'd be able to get answers on. Thank you.
I think that was the last. So I'll take two last questions. Take one from there, and I will take one from there.
Okay. My name is Cecilia. I'm coming from Northern Province. So our organization is helping young girls stay in school by providing scholarship to vulnerable girls who have successfully passed to go to secondary school yet lack the financial and family resource to finish secondary school. But the problem that we've had, like we are dedicated to helping as many girls as we could, which includes the re-entries. But the challenge that we've had is anytime that we pick a girl who had stopped to school a little bit because maybe they had a child or some other issues, when they are taken back to school, they end up stopping along the way. And you know, there is a Bemba saying that says, "Uakalema takaleka." And it says that this girl will go and fall pregnant again, or they'll just stop because they got used to some independence. So now my question is, does re-entry policy really work well? If it does, where are we going wrong? Like, what should we do as an organization in order to address this issue?
Okay, thank you for that question. Please, we had one, and then I'll get one hand from there and another one there.
I'm Gerard from Southern Province. We've been talking about various issues concerning reproductive health, but there's something that I've noticed that we have not touched. I don't know if this question can apply to UNESCO as well as the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Condoms have been distributed, they've been manufactured, and they're given for free. But I have seen something that we have not done. Some small girls, especially those who are still 10 years, who cannot have money or a coin to buy pads, they are left out there, and at the end of the day, they get involved in sexual illicitities because they cannot manage to buy pads or sanitary towels, in other words. So my question is, how can you help, or what are you doing to address this issue of free pads distribution to young children, especially those who are at primary school, who cannot manage to buy sanitary towels, the way we are distributing condoms for free? Because what I believe is that sex is an option, but menstrual is not an option. So what can we do to help those young ones who cannot manage to buy pads? Thank you.
Morning, my name is Tandiwe and I'm from Central Province. And I'm a board member of ZYP. So my question is, first of all the CSOs, your explanations are very good and clear. So my interest is a comment. Since you go and sensitize people about, youths about CSE, and then even in schools, from grade 5 to grade 12. So have you tried the, so when you go and sensitize, do you include deaf youths in the communities? Because the deaf youths, they are also lacking that information. And then we see the number escalating for deaf women getting pregnant because they don't have any information about HIV, nor do they know anything about CSE. Even myself, this workshop is the first time I'm hearing about this CSE. And what of those deaf people in the communities? They don't even know about their human rights. Otherwise, it's a great movement you're doing. Thank you.
And then we'll proceed, I think, after tea break.
Thank you. I think I will start with Tandiwe's question. Tandiwe, thank you so much for that useful question. And you may need to know that right now, government is working hand in hand with the UN under the concept of leaving no one behind. And everyone matters in the concept of the government directive. Everyone matters in the way the UN is working. And because we have that reminder that everyone matters, people like you, Tandiwe, a lot of wonderful young people out there who may have different disabilities, including those that are not able to speak, like the deaf, or those that are not able to hear, the visually impaired, and so on, all matter to us. And as a matter of agency, UNESCO right now holds a contract with the Zambia persons living with HIV agency, which is was formed through an act of parliament. And we have a contract with them doing a needs assessment for learners with disabilities, especially regarding to their access to CSE and adolescent sexual reproductive health. It's really a message that touches me, that young people who are deaf are complaining. She's hearing about CSE now for the first time. I think that is something that we should hit the ground running and also be able to know that we cannot leave anyone behind. Commenting on the sanitary towels, I know my colleague PT from the government will be able to handle that, but you need to know that now government has a budget in the national budget to respond to such a need for a lot of young people who are not able to afford buying a sanitary pad. Excuse me. However, we have a lot of organizations right now that includes FAWEZA, Comfort, that actually do actual distribution of sanitary towels for free to young people in rural areas who can really not afford. I like the way you have put it, that menstrual reality is not an option. And it comes to everybody, and there are a lot of girls out there who miss school because they feel that they'll embarrass themselves, they'll mess themselves up in public and so on. But Reverend said, why is it that only girls clapped and boys, gentlemen, didn't clap? Reverend.
Yeah, just an addition to what my colleague has mentioned, we have also a number of development partners that are into this issue, and some are making pads out of cloths. Those are renewable pads, which mostly are being targeted for our rural girls, because it would be easier and less costly instead of these pads that we dispose of. Thank you.
Could you also answer Tandi's question? I think that wasn't only for UNESCO.
Okay, thank you so much. As my colleague mentioned, indeed, as government, we are not leaving anyone behind. And I'm happy, Tandue, for that question. You may wish to know that as Ministry of Youth, we are engaging persons with different disabilities in our activities. This year we had the National Youth Week and the Youth Forum, where I may mention to you that we had a good participation of people with disabilities who also shared some of your concerns. And as government, we are indeed trying to incorporate everyone and not leave anyone behind. So as a Ministry of Youth, it's even in our policy. We're working with all people, no matter their status. We are working with them. Thank you.
Thank you for those responses. And as we conclude to go to tea break, I'd just like to say the following things that I learned from the panel. I think there's an urgent need to desexualize CSC and SRHR. You know, when we talk about these things, they're not sex issues. And I think that people need to take out that sex element from CSC, because nobody is teaching sex. That will help us to progress forward. Because as long as people think it's a sex issue instead of a health and developmental issue, these issues will still come up and we will not help anybody, because numbers are telling us that, you know, young people are engaging. It's showing us the number of young people that are living with HIV, the ones that are not on ART, the ones that are getting pregnant. And it's not numbers that, if I may say, forgivable. They're not forgivable numbers. There's so many numbers for a population that we are. I also would like to say that there's an urgent need that we work together. It's not the Ministry of Religious Affairs to fight the Ministry of Education or Ministry of Youth, CSO. I don't think at this level that we are in terms of statistics of young people that are not on ART or statistics of young people that are, you know, pregnant. I don't think those should be the conversation. The conversation should be, how do we reduce the numbers? Because I think that that is the emergency right now, and not who was consulted and who wasn't. Because at the end of the day, I think the church has not provided solutions in terms of how they will help young people if CSE, you know, was to be halted or anything like that. Besides, COVID showed us that, you know, when children were not in school, they got pregnant. You know, the numbers of young people living now living with HIV went up. And also, I think we need to develop technologies even as young people to ensure that we're able to still provide CSC and SRHR. I think we learned from Zimbabwe, you know, the amazing work that they were able to do through social media. We also need to measure impact that is solely from the CSC intervention. Thank you for listening. It's now time for tea break.
Thank you so much. Our tea break, we know the rooms were in yesterday. So please just get your juice, your tea, and come back. We start the next session that's online. So please, you have 5 minutes to get your tea, your juice, and come back. See you in 5 minutes. Okay, 1, 2. Can we please go down? Can we please settle down? We go to the next session. Social distance as we settle down, please. Social distance. Mask up. Let's not forget to mask up as we go into the next session. Social distance, please. 1 meter. COVID-19 is so real. COVID, monga bakchipata, COVID. Okay, can I have the technicians here? We are set for the online presentation by Onesimus. Onesimus. Okay, so The selfie guy is here. Selfie, hashtag. Remember, we are live on Zambia Youth Platform on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Insta. I believe on Instagram as well. Are we live on Insta? YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter? Or Twitter? Our phones, can we get our phones? The count of 3. We take a selfie. Apanga na omona kulifyo vyo mpe fyo kuimina finoko papika picture. On the count of 3. 1, 2. I can't see your phones. 2.5. I'm waiting for Bakopala. Okay. 3. Okay, let's go. Okay. You can post them on your page. You can tag ZYP Zambia Youth Platform on Facebook, on Twitter. Okay, thank you. Now, can I please have your attention? Like to call Mr. Mambo to give an overview and the objective of the next session we are going in. Mr. Malambo, sir.
Selfie moment. Is it a moment or now it's an hour? Selfie hour? The chair should have been more clear. It's a selfie moment, not a selfie hour. Okay, all right, so we are going into... Sorry, can I get your attention, please? Yes, we have 2 presentations coming up. There's one on what you're calling CSS, that's Community System Strengthening. And there's another one, we're calling CLM, that's Community-Led Monitoring. So sometimes, young people are not interested in anything that is very technical. But then there are times when you have no choice but to do the technical stuff for you to be relevant. So for CSS, that's a language that is being used in the development space. If you're going to participate in processes, I've seen young people sit in a meeting and there are all these abbreviations, CSS, CLM, and they say, okay, so choose your group. Which group do you want to belong to? They all go to a group that they will identify, maybe to be written HIV, and they will avoid everything that sounds Greek. At the end of the day, we start saying, in this process, young people are not included because you chose not to be in that particular process. But then again, I don't blame them because sometimes we're not even aware of what it means, right? So this is an opportunity for us to learn something around community system strengthening. All the partners around the globe are investing in that process, based on the understanding that the support that partners or donors provide to our countries is not forever. It don't be perpetual support. So at some point, this support comes to an end. So as and when it comes to an end, communities should continue to do what they're supposed to do. So young people are members of the community, isn't it? Yeah. So I just want to urge you and encourage you to pay particular attention to this presentation. At some point, you begin to ask your questions, get clarity, to really understand and grasp the concept. For community-led monitoring, this is basically monitoring of what is going on, the programs or interventions being implemented for young people, especially where as a young person, let's find a place. Let's find our place in this process. From the ZYP perspective, I think in the beginning, we, just like many other young people, We have an opportunity to sit on the table with decision makers where you can contribute, say what you think is the right thing to be done for young people. But without data, you can never convince anyone. Without evidence, you can't convince anyone. You always end up on the attendance register as the best way of participating. You write your name there and then you walk out because you have no data. When you sit on the table, everybody else wants data. The Global Fund wants data. PEPFAR wants data. So everyone wants data for you to convince them to move to what you want them to do for young people. So let's also grasp the concept of community-led monitoring, because through this process, we've been able to generate quite a lot of data ourselves. And I think our participation now is meaningful, now more than ever, and want to continue improving. So all of us here have this opportunity to learn and grasp this concept. So I have a colleague from INASO, Tanzania, Onesimus Mulewa, who will be taking us through those two presentations. So please do jot down your questions, and we'll give an opportunity to everyone to actually ask those questions at some point. But first, we'll ask him to make the two presentations, one after the other, then we'll take the questions at some point. But as we ask questions, I've seen that for young people, you want to give a background, then you come to the issue, then you go to the conclusion. Let's be very concise, okay? Let's keep them short so we give opportunities to more people to ask questions. Thank you. So at this point, I'll invite Mulewa, who'll be joining us from Arusha, Tanzania, to actually make his two presentations. And I'm hoping that you'll stay on to also attend to our questions. Thank you.
I hope I am clear and people can hear me. Hello, can anyone hear me from the other side?
We can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. I hope I'm allowed to share my screen.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you very much. All of you can see my screen, I believe. I was to make this presentation yesterday, but I think yesterday was a very busy day for you guys. I was enjoying all your sessions yesterday. I stood glued to my computer for the rest part of the day, just watching you guys. So thank you very much. I'll be making two presentations today because Rhoda is not in, and I hope I'll do justice to both these two presentations, and then we'll move into a question and answer session. So just to roll us through, this is the community system strengthening presentation. And this first slide is all about ENASO. Just a brief so that we know who ENASO is. We are basically a regional organization with programs across all Anglophone Africa countries. We host the Global Fund supported Community Rights and Gender Anglophone Communication Platform that works in 23 Anglophone Africa countries, and of course some 2 Portuguese-speaking Africa countries. So this is actually the map that shows our area of coverage. So we actually do have quite a lot of interactions with colleagues in Zambia as well. So I feel like I'm making this presentation in Lusaka, and I'm actually at home. So that's basically about ENASO, and you can read more about us through www.enaso.org. So let's move on into our introduction slide on community system strengthening. When we are talking about community system strengthening, I just want to have a small reflection. What exactly do communities do to influence health outcomes? Because if you want to strengthen something, it literally means you want to strengthen it so that it can either perform better or to do the function that it was supposed to do in a much more better way. So looking at what basically communities do to influence health outcomes, this would have been an exercise we would have done if I was seated in that main plenary hall. but because I'm quite far placed from you guys, then let's look at this. I believe these are the things that basically communities will do to influence health outcomes. We either monitor the performance of programs so that we can be able to say this is not working well. We either use whatever available evidence exists so that we can advocate for change. We do a lot of social mobilization, and I believe this is something that we are quite so familiar with, so that we can bring on all the available parties that are able to influence change into the space so that they can be able to contribute into the change that we want. We do quite a lot of community linkages, linking those who are in the care provision to those who actually require to receive care, to those who are actually supposed to make the right decisions for what care that needs to be delivered. So we do quite a lot of community linkages to ensure that programs actually have the right impact that is desired. Networking and collaboration is something we do quite a lot in order to influence change. Institutional capacity building. This is something that has been discussed yesterday. We were talking a lot about capacity building, but yes, that's what we do every day to ensure that the necessary elements have the right capacities to engage and actually influence change. Planning, leadership and development, efficiency and accountability. These are the things that communities will do on a day-to-day basis so that we can actually be able to ensure that we influence change towards good health in the community. So if these are the things that we do, what then is community system strengthening? We really want to ensure that the elements that we have just discussed about are properly strengthened for them to allow us be able to influence the change that we desire. So civil community system strengthening is basically investing in some systems pillars to maximize the contribution of communities in an effective health response. And I have actually dissected the systems pillars into 4 pillars. If you look into the Global Fund framework, they have actually expanded these 4 pillars into 6 pillars. They have actually pushed resource mobilization into an independent pillar, and another pillar on leadership and development has actually been put as an independent pillar. But basically, these are the 4 core pillars that actually move towards community system strengthening. We are talking about community-based monitoring and accountability. If our monitoring and accountability mechanisms are poor, we can never be strong enough to influence change. Advocacy for social accountability. This is something that we need to strengthen to ensure that we are able to use existing evidence to hold the people who are in position of power to be accountable on the issues that we really want them to deliver. So unless this is actually strengthened and happening, we really cannot have stronger systems that are going to deliver the health response that we desire. Social mobilization, building community linkages, collaboration and coordination. This is another strong pillar that we need to ensure we have strong mobilization skills to ensure that every person is involved. And we are talking about young people here, the youth. How are the youth socially mobilized to ensure that they take their rightful position in areas of decision making, in areas of service delivery, in areas of ensuring that we are able to influence change? Institutional capacity building, planning and leadership, development in the community sector. This is an area that needs to be strengthened. Yes, we have heard about youth as the leaders of tomorrow for so long. I think the time has come for youth to be leaders of today. You cannot be a leader of tomorrow every single day, and you are not being prepared enough to take that leadership mantle. So these are some of the stronger pillars we are talking about when we talk about community system strengthening. If we strengthen these pillars, then we are able to influence the change that we desire in the health response. So let me just quickly talk about this a little bit in detail. I'll rush this quite through, and I'll be sharing this slide, so do a lot of listening other than writing. Community-based monitoring for accountability. What are we really talking about here? We are talking about a pillar that communities are able to sit together and review what the outcomes are. What is the data that is available? Can communities make sense out of this data and say, these indicators are actually really not performing the way that they are supposed to be performing? And if they are not performing, then what needs to be done? We are talking about communities and groups able to monitor, document, analyze performance of health services as a basis for accountability. If we cannot be able to pick the loose ends, that the services are not being provided in the right way that they should be provided, then we are really not able to hold those people who are providing these services accountable. And ensure that community for accountability is strengthened and evaluation and how to translate outcomes into results. This is not easy, and these are areas that have really not received a lot of support for a long time, including from major donors, PEFAS and Global Fund. Yes, they have invested in some monitoring initiatives. Communities have been a lot of being able to translate outcomes into results. This is something that is that we have strengthened the community-based monitoring for accountability pillar. I'll be speaking a little bit more on community-based, community-led monitoring later when I'm making Rhoda's presentation. What are we talking about advocacy for social accountability? We are saying that communities and affected populations conduct consensus dialogue and advocacy at local and national levels aimed at holding to account responses to the diseases, including health services, disease-specific programs, as well as broader issues such as education, gender inequality, and sustainable financing, and aimed at social transformation. This is basically about holding the duty bearers to account for the things that they are supposed to deliver. If we are unable to have actually this done, then this is where people actually take us for granted. We are a lot of integration, yeah, but you can always go to the health facility and access a service. I am a youth, for heaven's sake. I need youth-friendly services. Can leaders be held to account to ensure that I'm able to access the services in a friendly environment? This is basically what we are talking about when we're talking about advocacy for social accountability. And in this particular space, many people, when we have talked about advocacy, always think about us moving into the streets, holding pigs and being a little bit rowdy, but that's not the case. We are talking about constructive dialogue here, using essential evidence to be able to unpack the issues that impact on us. How do we deal with issues of stigma and discrimination? How do we mitigate important valuable conduct for the realities that actually happen within our space? If I move on into the next pillar of social mobilization, building community linkages and collaboration and coordination, we are talking about communities and affected populations being able to engage in activities to improve their health and their own environment. This is where we are talking about community action, establishment of community organization, creation of networks and effective linkages with other actors and broader movements such as human rights and women's movements. These are elements that actually need partnership building, being able to pull together in unison so that our voices can actually be magnified. And these interventions actually allow us to develop partnerships for regular monitoring and follow-up of these partnerships. So enabling effective activities, service delivery, and advocacy, maximizing resources and impacts, and coordinate working partnerships is basically what we are talking when we talk about social mobilization, building community linkages, collaboration, and coordination. As I move into conclude this session, we are talking about institutional capacity building, planning, leadership, and development in the community sector. And when we talk about this pillar, we are talking about capacity building of community sector groups, organizations, and networks in a range of areas necessary for them to fulfill their roles in service provision, social mobilization, monitoring, and advocacy. Institutional capacity or capacity building does not have an end. We have had this narrative that we've been doing a lot of capacity building, so until when shall we do capacity building all the time? Capacity building is an integral part of the national or regional response. It's an integral part of the disease response. Things evolve every single day, and the capacities that we had yesterday may not be the right capacities that actually allow us to deal with the current challenges. We used to talk of ATM, AIDS, TB, and malaria. Now, all of a sudden, COVID-19 is here and everything is being thrown in disarray. We need fresh knowledge. We need fresh capacities to be able to effectively integrate COVID-19 into our programming so that we do not lose the focus of the key three major diseases that we've been dealing with. So capacity building has to be an integral part of the entire process. Every single stage comes up with new challenges. The capacity building will have actually to evolve with the times as well. So I think this is an area that will continuously require investments so that as young people, as communities, we have the right capacities to be able to respond effectively to new challenges that actually face us. So we are talking about inclusion in support in planning, institutional organization development, systems development, human resources, leadership, and community sector organizing. Most of the time, you hear that you have a grant, but it's not supporting you to do some institutional development work. So it's not supporting some systems, and money has to go into programs. But for money to go into programs, it must be lended in the right institutional strength and capacity to be able to handle this kind of programming. So that said and done, the time to invest in CSS, I say, is now. And I think as people who are seated here today to talk about our priorities and what needs to be done, we are saying communities have actually the right, actually bring to the public discourse planning and decision making with a lived reality. It's the youth who know the realities that they are living in, and they bring in that lived reality and a wealth of skills and knowledge and understanding of the real consequences of the ill health. The issues that affect the youth, they know them better. So what is required actually is meaningful support in terms of resources, information, infrastructure, conducive operating environment for them to be able to bring that lived reality into a real life experience and perspective. And in this way, then community system strengthening will have the potential to provide the essential support to ensure better health and outcomes are realized. Natolela Itumezi. Thank you, Zikomo. Malo, I've become Zambian. Someone should clap for me. That's the end of my community system strengthening presentation. And I don't know from the moderators if I transit into the community-led monitoring presentation, or we'll have some 2-3 minutes for question and answer before I move on to the next presentation.
You can proceed to the next presentation.
Okay, thank you. Let me proceed to the next presentation, and then let me manage technology here. Okay. Let me share the next presentation. So this presentation was supposed to be done by Rhoda Lewa, our colleague, but unfortunately she's not able to join us today. She's bereaved, so she sends her apologies for not being able to be with us today to make this presentation. So we are talking about conceptualizing and designing and implementing a community-led monitoring system. So when we are talking about conceptualizing, designing, and implementing CLM mechanisms, what basically are we talking about? And briefly, as our moderator introduced to us about community-led monitoring systems, these are mechanisms that service users or local communities use to gather, analyze, and use information on an ongoing basis to improve access to quality and the impact of services, and to hold services providers and decision makers to account. And I alluded to this in my first presentation on CSS, that with the right data, then you're actually able to influence change by holding duty bearers to account. And the conceptualization and designing of a community-led monitoring mechanism is a foundation step and key determinant of their success. And conceptualization of community-led monitoring systems should always be a collective and participatory process. Because if this is going to be a community-led monitoring mechanism, then communities must actually have agreed on what is going to be monitored, what data is going to be collected, and how that data is going to be utilized. So, moving on to the next slide. Let me put this slide. Cycle, which I'm not going to take a lot of time talking about, but just to say the Global Fund has actually put a lot of interest and the resources in ensuring communities actively engage in data collection and using this data to inform their programs. The Global Fund is basically investing hugely in community-led monitoring mechanisms. In brief, the principles of community-led monitoring systems or community, you will find that the Global Fund, some of the literature that is written within the Global Fund still uses community-based monitoring systems. But yes, there is a shift that is happening, moving from community-based, where people align community-based to mechanisms that are actually kind of based at the community level, to community-led, where we are putting communities at the front into leading the monitoring action. So community-led is about community. It is about community-led and driven, and it's objective and transparent, and it's collaborative. Community-based monitoring is action-oriented and transformational. It promotes accountability for health investment and results, and it provides a complementary source of information. Information exists, but most of the time, when we sit at the table and people are saying this is the information available, there are some of the information that is not collected in the mainstream systems. Issues of human rights and gender, for instance, you will not see them being captured in the mainstream. And when we sit at the table to present that these issues impact on us, people think we are sentimental. We don't have the actual statistics. We don't have the actual data. And people say, those are just your wishful thinking. So community-led monitoring mechanisms help us to generate strong, credible evidence that we can table at the table and say, these are the issues that we really need be impacted on. So the conceptualizing of CLM The conceptualization and design process should allow for seeing the end from the beginning to facilitate comprehensive and complete resourcing, human, financial, technological, time of the CLM mechanism. What do we mean when we say this? Before you even design any community-led monitoring system, turn it upside down and say, what exactly is the end game? What do I want to see? And when you actually define what you want to see, then you say, okay, then how do I make sure that I realize this? And that's how you actually design your mechanism that will enable you realize the end. So conceptualization and results and design results to implementation ready CLM mechanisms, as well as comprehensive conceptualization and design of CLM mechanism, is guided by a 9-step conceptual framework. And this is what I'm going to be talking about now here briefly. This is the conceptual framework that actually you use when you're actually designing any community-led monitoring system to ensure that there is a planning conceptualization phase. This is where we are talking about what is it that you want to realize? What's your end game? How do you get to your end game? What are the elements? What is the data that you need? What is the information? How are you going to collect this information? How are you going to make sure that you realize your end game? And then there is the stakeholder analysis and engagement. Who is going to be involved? Who is going to be your ally as you're actually designing your community-led monitoring system? Who are you going to be interacting with? This is where you actually map your stakeholders. Those who are primarily going to be the people in charge of the data collection process, analyzing that data, those people who are going to be supporting you to ensure that you realize some of the elements, those who are going to actually be impacted at the end of the day by the information that you actually bring on the table. So you do a clear stakeholder analysis and mapping and engagement to ensure that who do you bring on board? Those who you think are resistant to what you want to actually implement, how do you make sure that you bring them into the space in a manner that they are not going to curtail your intervention? Then there is the data collection, analysis, triangulation, and reporting. As we are talking about committed monitoring, when we are talking about monitoring, definitely it's all about what data is it that we want to bring on the table that can show us how the different indicators or indications that we have put in place are either performing or not performing. So this is the actual phase where we actually organize to collect data, how we analyze this data, who analyzes the data, how do we bring it together, how does it link with other data sources, and how do we report it, who actually finally receives this data. So this is where you actually look at the entire piece of ensuring that there is proper data collection, proper analysis, and of course, reporting of this data. And then there is the section of influence and advocacy. Community-led monitoring mechanisms are not just intended to generate data. They are not data factories that you simply generate data and throw it out there. But it has this noble element of influencing and advocacy. Once you have this data, how do we make sure that we use this data to influence change? Yes, we have realized that in a particular health facility, service provision is not youth friendly. Yes, and we have the evidence. How do we use this evidence now to advocate for change, to ensure that we have actually youth friendly services being provided at this particular facility? Yes, there are stockouts. So once we have realized there are stockouts, what do we do with this data? How do we ensure that we actually advocate and change the situation as it is? Yes, we realize that there are a lot of stigma and discrimination and human rights violations happening. How do we use this information? So this is the place of influencing our advocacy. So community-led monitoring mechanisms have an inbuilt desire for influencing change within the disease response. And then follow-up monitoring and closure. Once actually you are designing your system and you're actually influencing change, there is a process to say, how are we really managing or doing in our mechanism? Is our mechanism actually giving us the desired end? Are we able to generate the right information that we can influence change? Are we actually being able to integrate this information meaningfully in a way that it empowers us to act? So this is the process where actually you monitor the entire situation. And of course, as you monitor the entire situation in a cyclic nature, then you actually review, make corrections, and either strengthen the elements that are weak within your mechanisms and or change the direction or indicators that are actually collecting a data from. And the overall objective is basically to empower communities. Once communities are able to generate credible evidence, use this evidence to influence change, then we are actually works for us. So these are the core elements of designing a community-led monitoring mechanism. And if you look at basically the explanation we are talking about, detailed costing of the CLM mechanisms is important. It will ensure adequacy of funding. As you are designing this, I mean, we are talking about it's not free. I mean, it has a cost element. All that process I've just been explained. What does it take for us to be able to do that kind of a mechanism? So there is the costing element for community-led monitoring systems. And we are talking about ultimately the costing will be informed by the nature, type, and scope of the mechanism that you want to put in place. And the CLM conceptual framework described in this section may be used as a reference for what should actually be costed. So what has just been provided, there is a budgeting template that our colleague Rhoda did provide, that you actually know what event, what activity, and at what cost you really want to put in place. So it's basically activity-based costing should be used as a primary method for estimating financial cost of the CLM mechanism. What activity do you want to do, and how much does it cost, so that at the end of the day, every segment is costed and you're able to know how much money you need or how much resources you need to run the system. It is recommended that activities be costed annually and broken into quarters to make them easier to monitor and synchronize between different calendar and funding partners. The cost for each activity are the cost of the service of people, the number of people expected to receive the service is multiplied by the unit cost of that particular service. And once the CLM is conceptualized, designed, and costed and resourced either through the Global Fund grants or other funding partners, including but not limited to GIZ backup, PEPFAR, there are all these people who are really interested in supporting mechanisms, then CLM mechanism implementation is ready to roll. And it is recommended that prior to actual implementation, a comprehensive CLM concept is developed detailing the objective of the CLM mechanism, its indicators, an implementation plan, and a budget to guide the implementation. Thank you very much, Zikomu, and I'm happy that you've listened to me. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you so much. We'll straight away go into questions. Anyone with a question? You introduce yourself and where you're coming from.
Thank you so much. My name is Melus Mopango, a young person. I would like to add something on community system strengthening. I believe it was explaining about the 4 pillars, which has to do with community, monitoring and accountability, advocacy, social accountability, social mobilizing, building capacities, and institution building capacities as well. But I think to the pillars, there is need to make a change, or maybe an addition to the pillars, as in we'll be dealing with communities where a lot of social norms are highly practiced. So I think if a pillar to do with a shift of social norms to be added to the 4 pillars, there is going to be more acceptance on healthy behaviors, including gender equality, promoting gender equality, equity, things like that, provided that we're dealing with communities. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take 3 questions before he answers.
Okay. My name is Kenneth Clive. Based on what was discussed, to say, he was talking about ensuring the community being able to to the public the right information. Now, my question is that what is that you are doing to make sure that
Is it the network? Do we proceed? Or anyone with maybe anyone in here to answer or any question? A recommendation and a question from okay to on the presentation. Okay. I did, but how are we doing? Are we okay? Almost. Okay, almost. We are almost there. Almost there. Anyone who can give us anything, a poem, presentation, a short one, short one, short one, short. Anyone? Okay. We have our beautiful sister there. Please, you can come. Yes. Let's put our hands together. You're welcome, you're welcome. You can stand next to. She's going to sing.
No.
No, she's not singing.
Hi guys. So my name is Chansa. So I'm not going to sing or a poem. No, I just have a concern over something that I've really noticed in this meeting and especially the previous presentation. So this is just something that I learned. This is called the adolescent Indaba, right? But for me, I feel that the presentation was way just too technical than adaptive because there's so many adolescents in here that I'm pretty sure did not understand some of the terms that the man was using during the presentation. So now the problem is, as adolescents, we're supposed to be able to understand what it is that is being presented to us for us to be able to come up with solutions. But if we don't understand, how are we going to be able to come up with solutions? So what are we going to do about that? That's a problem I've identified. So now what's the solution? What are we going to do about it? What?
Thank you so much.
No, I'm from Lapula.
Thank you. So we have a consent from Luapula, which will be addressed by Mr. Malambo. Another.
I think at this level, as young activists and advocates, wherever you're coming from, we should have an attitude to learn instead of saying it's too technical. Because the spaces there that we want to change things are technical spaces. You cannot go there and start speaking the language that is there. We must learn as young people. This should challenge us as young people to learn how to speak at that level. So if we are always saying it's too technical, then we'll not get the seat at the table that we want. We'll always have people representing us. So we need to learn as young people.
Okay. Mr. Malambo is going to.
Okay, all right. So no one was born with this knowledge. Do we agree? This is an opportunity for you to learn. So pay particular attention and learn. You don't understand, ask questions. Even after the session, we are available, ask more questions. There are people that are not privileged to be in this room today. Can I have your attention, please? They are not privileged to be sitting in this space today. They're sending emails. They're asking questions. I'm busy there. They're sending me emails. They're sending text messages. They're trying to engage. They want to learn. You are in the space. Ask your question. If something is too technical, ask. We'll simplify it until we get to your level. Okay? Otherwise, in future, we'll ask these questions on the application template. If you don't understand, it's too technical for you, we'll leave you out so that you can go and learn first the earlier stages. When you get to this level, we'll bring you here. But unfortunately, in the development space, things move really, really fast. Okay? Zoe has been to a number of spaces, as an example, right? So you get in a space. An example is was it this year? Yeah, this year. We went together to South Africa. We were dealing with the issue of its PEPFAR, the PEPFAR funding that comes to the country. So at that level, at regional level, to try and talk about the priorities for the country as Zambia. She was in that space and she meaningfully participated in that engagement. She didn't go there last year. She went there for the first time and she was brilliant, I can tell you that. So make this count and do not be embarrassed to ask. No matter how silly the question sounds, please do ask. Okay? Even after 5, we'll be here because we want to get you to the level where everybody can be able to meaningfully participate and engage even after you leave this space. When you go back to Eastern Province, we want you to hold every player accountable based on what we're learning here. They're talking about the pillars. What is it that you can pick from there? Bring it down to your level. What are you going to do about this? So the solutions that you present here today, based on what you're learning, is what we are going to further implement together with us. If you come from Luapula, there's a solution that you want to implement in Luapula. We're implementing it together with you. If there's no solution that you have, the conversation dies here. So the choice is really ours. Okay, so I appreciate the question and the concern. It's valid, but I'm just encouraging you to open up and learn. Let's embrace the new knowledge. Okay, there are certain questions that have been in every space where young people have gathered. Every space I've been to, young people ask certain questions. I've heard some of them here today, and I'm not going to refer to them because I don't want to put the people that asked on the spot. So I don't want this to be an academic exercise where we ask the same questions every time. Even when there have been solutions that have come in place and that question is not valid anymore, we still continue asking. Let's relate to what's happening this particular moment. Let's live in the now. Thank you.
So I'll continue with questions. Welcome to Zambia. Any questions?
Thank you. I think it's very much important that here we find out some minor things that we do not know, but we have the heart for those things. First of all, I want to find out from those who have ideas. There are instances whereby you have a project, you want to implement a project, but from different proposals that have gone through, that I've seen, it seems like there is need of something that you've done by yourself or as an organization before another organization or funder comes in. So I want to find out how can one, or rather an organization, be able to raise a certain amount of money for that particular project before requesting or rather applying for another grant or any financial help, because you find that as a community-based organization, you only manage to raise maybe a small amount of money for your project. For example, in these small communities, you cannot even manage to raise a 10,000 as a small organization just for that project. So you need, your funders will need more money for you to raise first before they come in. So how do you do that? That's the first question. The last question is on accountability. We've seen there are different youth-friendly spaces in these places where we come from or where we work from, but we've been hearing the government has funded youth-friendly spaces, this amount of money, and we tend to ask or wonder where that money, who benefit from that money that is meant for the youth-friendly spaces. Because this push you to advocate, or I mean, not really advocating, to facilitate or run some other youth-friendly programs, yet there is no money. But there is money that is budgeted for. And you find that that money, before it reaches its destination, which is the local level, that money is blocked somewhere. So how can we do to ensure that that money reaches the destination, unlike whereby it is blocked at district level because of some certain issues?
Thank you. Issue of money is always a debate. Who gets what and who doesn't what. Okay, so we'll go back to the questions that were asked to Mr. Onesimus. I believe he's back online. Is he back? Is he able to get the questions? Unless you're going to keep it simple, short.
Okay, it's not a question. Instead, I thought as a certain adolescent from a certain shanty said, Timvele Nkoni, adolescents who are privileged to come for such gatherings, there's someone out there who believes and says to say such gatherings or such meetings are meant for Lana Mayadi. So there'll be a request. Yes, I'd love to request to say that if possible, adolescents who stay in the shanties or maybe who are in Balikuma means they should also acquire this knowledge that we are acquiring here. Because most of the times, believe you me, it's rare that you would find a Mwana Mayadi is falling pregnant. Usually are the so-called Komboni. Those are the ones who fall pregnant. This is due to lack of information. So more sensitization should be done. And for us who have this information, let's take advantage and spread the news.
Okay, so Kulubatutila Umwana wa Pamunshi, you've got the knowledge. The question is, what are you going to do to those young people? It's high time young people ask themselves this question. I have got the knowledge, I've learned this, what am I going to do? We are always blaming it on the donor, what this donor is not doing, what YP is not doing, what SAT is not doing, what UNFPA or whatever organization is not doing. The question is, what are you doing? What are you doing as a young person? When you leave this place, what are you going to do? In that community, what are you doing? The excuse you might give, I don't have money, but you have the information. You have the people. What are you doing? You have platforms. What are you using them for? You have your Facebook, you have your WhatsApp, you have your Twitter, and everything you have on social media. What are you doing? It's high time young people became the change we want to see. Let's take a lead. We have complained enough year in, year out. We have donors coming like this, like UNESCO. What they want to hear are solutions from young people. They want to hear solutions. As a politician, each time I go to any meeting, I want to hear solutions. When I go to one of the constituencies, I want to stand. I don't want to hear people complaining. It's what are we going to do together as young people? So let's bring out solutions. You've got the knowledge. Let's now share with the community. Let's not wait for UNESCO to go and share the information in Ngombo. If you're coming from that community, what are you doing? Be the change in that community. Are we together? Let's be the change. Let's take a lead. Zambia needs to see that we have young people. We have young people that can provide quality leadership, that can sit with the technocrats and debate issues. And these are young people we need to see in parliament next year or challenge the people in parliament. Say, this is what we want. This is the policy we want when it comes to health. This is what we want to see in the policy. And you hold them accountable because you are part of the whole process. You offered solutions. But if you're going to complain, they'll go and sit down and they'll be busy. Yeah. No. Yeah. And write things they don't even understand. And will come back next year and complain over the same things. So can we offer solutions, practical solutions? Are we okay? Are we okay? Okay. Are we back? Okay. Mr. Onesmus, can you hear us? 1, 2. I saw a hand somewhere. Okay, there are two of them now. I'll take 4 questions. 4. Okay, here. I'll start with him, other table, and the 2 behind.
Thank you very much. I think mine is not a question. It's just a recommendation. Yeah, my name is Daniel Mtade from Kasama. As we can see, really, this program is a high opener. It may be look simple like this, but bit by bit, we are getting there. Why am I saying so is that, listen, was it ZYP, they came to Kasama, Northern Province in particular, the entire Northern Province, they came to Kasama. From the time they came to implement this program, many young people are coming to offices to access all these sectors and spared in the fruits. So what I'm asking from them is that rather than just having a hindrance in here, let's also, maybe they consider like to start having interprovincial, whereby those DCs in various provinces are able to meet together so to be able to share the information. And it can really help out people out in the community.
Thank you, Bakwe Sukulubemba Kasama. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm Gina Salaba, coming from Solwezi, Northern. Mine is not a question, but just to like an answer to what Taonga said, because Taonga, you questioned. I think this thing of us being here, it isn't like we were just called to say, Ava, they can come, these no. ZYP came to Northwestern, we were a big group. There was a civil and some member of borders. So I don't think they can also manage to be like, they get each and every youth from Northwestern to come here due to some costs. So for us who've got this privilege of being here, I think it's us, as we learn, we go there and spread what we learn. At the end of the day, the number will be increasing. If maybe we come 2, the other time 4, the other time, if we come here 4, 5, or 6, which means as we go to spread that side, the number of the learners there will be more and more. I think I'm clear with you, Taonga, there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So please hold on to your questions. Let's just take the one question. It's a solution. Okay.
Okay,
Please,
thank you.
Okay. Solutions and questions.
Diana Muiwea from Choma, Southern Province. I just want to contribute, and this is a solution. As for us, adolescents and youth who have attended this meeting, I think for those who are in rural areas, of course, they are not all informed about this whole thing. They are not aware of this. That's why they usually fall pregnant. So please, it's our duty, us who can volunteer to go and teach them and reach out to everyone, every adolescent in rural areas. Let's volunteer, my fellow youth, so that our friends can also do it, can also have this kind of information. Thank you.
Okay. Can I please ask that we stick to the presentation, your questions?
Thank you once again. My name is yeah. The presentation were about community system strengthenings and the technical way which was capitalizing, design, implementing mechanism. My question is, we've seen a lot of mechanism coming in to implement some programs and support the same project. Now, the question is, how are we going to strengthen these mechanisms? Because even in the past, we've seen so many come that are very good, but they're not sustained. So the question is, how can we sustain mechanism that will last long to make sure that programs, projects are met and the outcomes are being met? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll allow to answer that question. Then goes into
Okay, yeah. So making programs sustainable. So I don't think there's a straightforward answer to that, but I think one of the most important things is to have more local driven interventions. So if an intervention is initiated by yourselves locally, you know how to implement it, you can continue doing it. But if it's an intervention that is foreign, they bring somebody to come and teach you how to do it, and they hold your hand throughout the process for you to do it, to enable you to do it. Once the person holding your hand, who is actually being paid to hold your hand, remember, you who is implementing what you're implementing, you're not being paid, but there's another guy holding your hand. Once that person gets getting paid, the intervention dies. So I think it's more locally driven interventions that will be sustainable. And for us, from ZYP perspective, we want youth-driven interventions, adolescent and youth-driven interventions. They should be initiated by yourselves. They should be implemented by yourselves. So even beyond the funding, maybe you get funding. The funding comes in to help you implement, learn how to do it, learn how to perfect what you're doing. Even when the funding is gone, because you live in the community. It's your community, it's your people, your friends, your family. You will continue to do what you're doing. You're not going to stop simply because a funding agency has stopped giving you money. That is one thing I have learned. So this is one of those opportunities where we want to give birth to sustainable interventions, beyond interventions that depend on money for us to achieve any change that we want. Then there were also issues around participation, how people get here. My belief is that not everyone here comes from the urban areas. So I'm not going to ask a question as to who comes from rural area because I don't want to put anyone on the spot again. But our understanding from the selection is that we have a wide representation in here. Therefore, it's the individual responsibility to move this forward. Like each one. Imagine if all of us taught one person the one thing that we've learned here, and that one person also is told to also teach one more person. It will be like wildfire. For provinces, I think we've been to each and every province in Zambia this year. Some of the provinces more than twice. Some provinces maybe just once. But every province we've been to, we have engaged. We have done provincial dialogues. We have used our community-led monitoring intervention to gather more information around what needs to be done within that particular province. Realizing, of course, that every setting is different. The intervention required in Southern Province could be different from what we need in Eastern. So our aim is to continue learning, so that even as we innovate, we're innovating around responsive solutions. So for young people, here for me, I'm looking forward to actually seeing a serious innovation that will boast about beyond this particular engagement. So you look back and say, during the Indaba, we said this was going to happen. And I can assure you, the way ZYP is structured, we have this fora today. This fora will be done. So beyond this fora, we sit on a number of other platforms where decisions are made. We are on the Global Fund platform, which is the CCM, the country coordinating mechanism. We make decisions there. We also chair a subcommittee under the same committee. It's called the National Strategic Planning and Investment Committee. We chair it ourselves. It's not a youth committee. It's a national kind of committee. We have different people there. PS, Ministry of what? PS, Ministry of what? It's a huge responsibility. But we have a seat at the table. So whatever innovations are coming from here, they're not dying here. We're taking them forward. We are pushing to ensure that some of the things are there. And in Indaba, like this one, in next year's budget, like from 2021, 2023, Global Fund budget, there's money allocated to support national Indabas, national youth Indabas like this one. It's arising from what? The need that young people express to us holding such kind of interventions. We are on the National AIDS Council Board. We also chair the PEPFAR Civil Society Advisory Group. So all these platforms are platforms that make decisions. So we have an opportunity to push every intervention, every innovation here. But of course, we're not going to push the same old story. We're looking for innovations. Then we can boast about it, right? Is Tawanda ready? So you can share your screen. Tawanda, please do share your screen so you can carry on. So I hope we're together, and apologies for my tone earlier. I hope I didn't discourage anyone. We still want you and we encourage you to be very open and frank and engage. Except that sometimes I think that young people, we look down on ourselves too much. So for me, I differ with partners that say young people have no capacity. So if I hear young people continue to say this is too big for us and we stay back from learning, I actually feel offended. I think I'm misrepresenting what young people are saying. I believe young people have a lot of capacity. They can do anything. You can correct me if I'm wrong, then I'll change the narrative somewhere else. So let's believe in ourselves and let's not agree with the belief that young people have no capacity. And then they continue putting you on the sidelines and give others the responsibility. There was something that the gentleman there raised from Southern Province around how can you mobilize resources to implement your intervention and stuff like that. For me personally, I believe getting money for an intervention is one of the easiest things to do. The most difficult thing is to put together a bankable idea. You need to have something to sell. So if you have something to sell, regardless of which province, which community you come from, let's come together and we can help you sell it. You can employ yourself through that particular initiative, right? Yeah, so getting money is the easiest thing. But putting your idea together is the most important thing. It's the most difficult, but it's the most important thing. Young people talk a lot. They complain. Sometimes they even curse. But they have solutions. So those solutions sometimes sound like you're just imagining things. That is why interventions like community-led monitoring are important. They're telling us how can we document these things so that we're able to justify what we are saying. So technical things will not run away. They'll continue coming back because we want every young person to get to that level where our understanding is superb and we can be able to engage and challenge anyone, anywhere, anytime in defense of our ideas. So we'll now hand over to Tawanda. So with this, this group that will be sharing here, they're based in Zimbabwe. So one of the objectives for the Indaba was for us to exchange ideas. So we want to see their innovation, what they've been doing, what they've been able to achieve. So if it's anything that we can learn from there and replicate here, let's learn and let's do it. So we'll have a few more groups also sharing from within Zambia and one more from Zim. They'll be sharing a bit later. So now hand over to Tawanda. So let's learn and see what we get from here. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Ntutu Zingure. I'm here with my colleague, Rimbainashi Chazi. So we are youth advocates and also community adolescent treatment supporters, representing Zwandiri Africate from Zimbabwe. So we'll be talking about the Zwandiri model. Youth participation at Zwandiri. Africa Zwandiri program started in 2004 when a young girl, Simbisai, asked for a support group where she and other young people living with HIV in Harare could share their experiences and also develop skills on how to grow up with HIV. When the first group started, Amanda, a young girl, a 14-year-old, named the group Zwandiri, meaning as I am in Shona. What she meant was, I am a child with HIV, but accept me as I am. Over the 14 years, the Zwandiri program has evolved from this particular support group into a comprehensive model of differentiated services. It has been adopted by the Ministry of Health and Child Care Zimbabwe and is being scaled up in 51 districts of Zimbabwe. The Zwandiri model has seen a lot of achievements in terms of HIV treatment, care, and support. Moving on to the next slide, we have line of our presentation. Our involved PH services that the leadership, advocacy, data evaluation, governance, and risk. On to the next slide, we have our vision. Our vision is that to make that HIV positive children and young people have knowledge and confidence, live healthy, fulfilled lives, to their hopes and dreams. So the kids, I'll talk more on the kids, the PH cases. CAT stands for Community Adolescent Treatment Supporters, are young people living with HIV, age group 18 to 40. They are trained by Ministry of Health and Childcare, by Ministry of Health and Childcare and Africa. We as CATs, we have our roles and responsibilities. We facilitate in daily in monitoring for children out in psychosocial support and adherence attend standard weekly meetings whereby we submit our reports and we maintain a standard of excellence in adhering to underlying principles and values of the program. We engage and accompany supported children, adolescent, young people in activities planned planned outside the main group activities. So as CATs, we do information, we share information, we do counseling, we do disclosure, HTS, like we share information on our HIV testing services, we refer for art services like for initiation, adherence, we refer for linkage to care into art program, information sharing to caregivers and partners. We do follow-ups for referrals and we also, or a family member, that particular household, we also test them so that they can know their statuses too. In facility, we do information sharing and counseling, disclosure, art initiation and adherence sessions, linkage to internal HTS, HIV testing services, art, SRH, PMTCT, mental health, and external social protection. We refer also for those who don't have birth certificates. We also refer for those who need to take identification, like for their countries. Like we also do information on sexual reproductive health and rights. Also participate in case conference, facilitation of adolescent corners, co-facilitation of support groups, facility-based refuel groups, young mother groups. Moving on to the next slide. we have as pets, we are at the front line, like the forefront of the service delivery. We support those with disabilities. We do viral load monitoring in case there's someone who is due for a viral load, and in case they have a high viral load. We do monitoring through home visits. We do SMS reminders on WhatsApp or through SMSs, or make a call or do a home visit. But due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the only thing that we can get in touch with the adolescent young people living with HIV is through mobile health, whereby we share through SMSs, WhatsApp, and also calls. We share information on PrEP, on adherence, adherence counseling. It could be done maybe at home, in a facility, sharing, doing TB screening, and also HIV testing. On HIV testing, we refer so that those come testing negative can be linked to HIV negative prevention care, so that they can be helped to stay HIV negative. And for those who test HIV positive, can be linked to ART for ART initiation. That's when we as kids, we think it's best for us to help that person who is tested HIV positive, to give the information and help them understand HIV, and that they can adhere to their medication. In sharing our own stories, it motivates them so that they understand and drink their medication with confidence. Moving on to the next slide, we have guidance, leadership and guidance. So Zwandiri remains true to its roots. It is led by young people as board members and by a peer advisory board. This is set out in Africa's constitution. So as I said earlier, it is a peer-led organization. So the peers are the ones that get the information from the beneficiaries, and it helps the organization to grow and knowing what are the needs for the adolescent young people living with HIV. So I'll take this time to hand over to Vimbai Jazi to finish off the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mdudusi. And my name is Vimbai Nashijaz. I'm one of the youth advocates representing Africade Zwandiri. And I am honored to be part of this regional conference as a young person, showcasing what we are doing and what we are doing as young people in supporting children, adolescents, and young people who are living with HIV in Zimbabwe. So taking on from where my colleague has left, at Zwandiri, monitoring and evaluation helps us to inform on the work that we are doing, as explained by Mdudusi before, that we work towards improving in the care cascade, that is the 395, and as kids, as young people, we are working towards it by supporting adherence, by also ensuring that we mobilize for HIV testing. So on monitoring and evaluation, we as young people, we are at the forefront in collecting the data, which is used to inform on the caseload that we would have done, be it at the community, at the facility, at the support groups, and also through mobile health. And also young people are employed in the Africade standard information and evaluation team, which is in charge of the monitoring and evaluation. As Africade, we have done so many researches, and all this research I'm so sorry about that. I didn't know that I have muted. I'm sorry. Okay, so my name is Vimbai Nashijaz. I'm one of the youth advocates representing Africade. And we work closely with children, adolescents, and young people who are living with HIV in Zimbabwe. And if you have heard from my colleague, we work closely in ensuring that we meet in the 395, and we work closely with the care cascade management, and we ensure that by mobilizing for HIV testing, as mentioned earlier, and also ensuring that we monitor the adherence of children, adolescents, and young people, as you have heard, kids that are trained and accredited by Ministry of Health, adolescents, and young people who are living with HIV to make sure that they live a healthy and fulfilled lives. So as Randiri, monitoring and evaluation is really vital. And as young people, we are the ones who are at the forefront in collecting our own real-time data. And we use this information to inform our own caseload management. That is the work that we would have done at the facility, at the community, at support groups, and also through mobile health. And also young people are employed in the Africade Standard Information and Evaluation team that is in charge of the monitoring evaluation. And at Randiri, we do so many researches, and also young people are as young people, we are at the forefront of all these researches, be it from small studies to large trials. And as you can see from this slide, this is one of the research that we also take part in as young people, showing the effect of different service delivery model on virological failure in adolescents with HIV in Zimbabwe. It was a randomized controlled trial, and all these studies have confirmed that the Randiri program has improved the testing, adherence, viral suppression, and mental health in the children, adolescents, and young people who are living with HIV, who are being supported by the CATS under Randiri. So advocacy work is one of our major roles at Randiri. And as young people, we are at the forefront of the advocacy work. We are the ones who take part in forums representing the voice of our peers. As you can see from this slide, these are some of the forums of the platforms that we had the opportunity to take part in, influencing policymakers on the rights and well-being of children, adolescents, and young people. And these are some of the recent platforms that we take part in. And from the picture, you can see this was the last ICASA edition. And we had young people who were there representing the rights and well-being and the needs for children, adolescents, and young people who are living with HIV. So as young people, we have had a chance to advocate, we have had chance to represent, and also to stand regional international forums representing the voice of our fellow peers. So as young people, we are the ones, like we have been hearing from all the presentations that were being led throughout the day, yesterday and today, that we are the ones who are responsible for the future. And we are the ones who design the IEC materials that we use, because we are the ones that know the information that we need also to be broadcast outside. So we are the ones at Randiri that are responsible for designing some of the IEC materials that we use in information and communication, that is to communicate with our fellow peers. And we try by all means to keep up with the recent updates, like with the issue of COVID-19. These are some of the recent IEC materials developed as young people to communicate and also address, talking about COVID-19, HIV, and ARV. And you can see from the slides, these are some of the flip charts. We have got the quick videos and games that we use in also communicating and also making sure that our peers are getting the information that they need on HIV and ARVs. And also on the slide, you can see we have got our own very radio show, the Randiri radio show, that young people participate in and also raise their concerns and also address some of the concerns that that young people raise, be it in the communities, be it at the facilities, or at the schools that they are. So we try all means to make sure that our voices are heard throughout as young people. Training and in terms of training and capacity building, Young people, we are at the forefront of trainings and making sure that we engage our peers with the skills, with the information, with the knowledge about HIV and positive living. And as you can see from this slide, these are some of the activities that we did as young people. And as young people, we were at the forefront, educating our fellow peers on the needs, on the rights of and the well-being of children and adolescents who are living with HIV. And you can see from the slides that these are some of the work that we did before. And also during COVID, we have been trying also to making sure that we do all this training and capacity building through various online platforms. And you can see also from the slide, this was one of the trainings that we had also. And we as young people, we were taking part in it. So we are muchly involved in the work that we do, because there is nothing for us without us, as being said. So moving on, as you can see from the slide, that AfriCaid is a one organization with multiple funders. And it is all because of their continued support of these partners that we as CAS, we as youth advocates, we have continued in supporting our fellow peers, and we have continued ensuring that children, adolescents, and young people who are living with HIV, their safety is at first, their voices are heard, and also their well-being and their rights are met. So all thanks to the funding partners that are on this slide that you all can see, that have continued supporting and ensuring that our work as at Zandiri as kids is continue going on and spreading on. So this is one of the project that we also did as young people recently last year. So this was a project that was done by young people in Zimbabwe. It is a song titled "This Is Me." This song, it talked about the issues that we face as young people in our daily lives, how we want to be addressed, and how the world see us, and how we have managed to overcome all those things. So I am greatly much honored to also share this with you. And I hope you will all enjoy this video and also share with other young people. You can go on our page that is on AfriCaid Zandiri. You will see the song. Make sure you share and make other adolescents out there, children and adolescents and young people who are living with HIV, know their stand in the world and know their rights also. So on this note, I would leave you watching this video, and thank you. Siyabonga Tatenda, over to you.
Thank you so much. Do we have questions? For the video. Okay. Mika, can we have the lights off?
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken past. Broken, not to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna stand above, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
Another round of bullets hits my skin. Fire away, close today. I won't let this shame sink in.
We are bursting through the barricades, reaching for the sun. Hey, that's what we've done. Don't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a transformation. Shining. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna stand and fly, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. The sharpest words wanna cut me down. Give me sand the blood, gonna drown them out. This is great, this is good, this is who
Thank you
I'm meant
so
to be.
much.
This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come.
Kwalumbaga Party.
This is me.
IT department, please, can you help us? Okay, I'll take questions. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'm only going to take 3 questions. Please make them short, and they should be in line with the presentation.
Thank you. My name is Timothy Wanuke from Copper Belt, Kitwe. My question is on the presentation. The same presentation just going on. Okay. My question is to ask them how they manage to strategize on how they manage to reach out into those young people who are living with HIV and AIDS. How do they manage to strategize and reaching to those?
Thank you.
Okay, may you please come again with the question?
I believe the question
So
was the
we asking
strategies
how
they
do you
used.
manage to reach out to the children?
The strategies they used to reach out to the youth living with HIV and AIDS, the strategies they used.
Thank you so much. My name is Merlus Urihuri Shamwari. My question is to do with some of the work that you do. You mentioned mental health. I just want to find out which key focus area are you in, because mental health is quite broad. So I just want to know, yeah, your focus area around mental health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The last question. Taking those two. That one. And supposed to go on lunch. Okay, please make it short.
Sure.
I hope it's one question. Okay.
Insightful presentation, by the way. My question is, you did not at any point mention key stakeholders like governments and maybe church mother bodies and whatnot. So I would like to find out how you engage stakeholders like government in order to ensure that you achieve your objectives in advocacy.
Thank you. Think you can answer those three questions?
My name is Mainza Mianda. I'm the Health Strengthening Systems nurse from Lusaka. What I wanted to find out is what best practices or strategies are you using apart from maybe SMSs, physical visits, and the like in ensuring that all adolescents that are on ART are retained into care? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe let me get all the questions. IT, are we okay with the sound? Okay.
I'm Jafet. I'm a medical doctor who is currently engaged with the USAID Discover Health. My main question is regards PrEP adherence. I come from the other side and I've seen how difficult it is to maintain people on PrEP. So I just want to find out what are some of the strategies that they've been using that have worked out for them to achieve that. Thank you.
Okay, can we get answers for those questions? Then we proceed. Over to you for answers.
Okay, thank you for all those questions. So on the first question, they spoke about the strategy that we are using to reach out to young people, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, so as you have heard from the first presentation, Shandiri model, it is a peer-led organization, which means as young people, we are at the forefront. And CATS, these are community adolescent treatment supporter. These are young people who are living with HIV who are trained. These are young people who are trained and accredited by Ministry of Health. So these trained CATS, they are the ones that have information. Like as CATS, we are at the forefront. We know what, when something is a peer-led thing, like we know what young people are lacking, where as young people we are lacking. So we try to raise those concerns and also make sure we push all those concerns. Because as you find out that as young people who are leading, we have faced all those situations that we'll be trying to help other young people in. So the only strategy that I can say is because the organization is mainly a peer-led organization, which means we as young people, we are the ones who come out with the innovative, we are the ones who come out with the strategies. That is the strategy that has helped us so far to reach to the peers, because we are the young people, we know where we are lacking as young people. I hope I have answered the first question.
Yes, please.
Okay, then taking on the mental health question, the second question. So as young people, we are not doctors, and what we are equipped with is the information on mental health, and we make sure that we have been equipped with the information to identify mental health. That means our role as CATS is to make sure that we identify any beneficiary that will be mental health challenges, and we refer, because one of our strengths is the community linkage. So what we do is we go into the community, we find out what is happening to their peers, and then we go back to the facility, and then we make sure that the where the beneficiary is lacking, the needs are met. So basically our role on the mental health is to screen. We have been equipped with the information, we've been equipped with the skills on identifying mental health issues. So in terms of when we see somebody who is having mental health issues, what we do is we refer for the psychologists, for the social workers to take on. So our main role as CATS is to mainly identify mental and screen for mental health.
Thank you so much.
Then I did not hear the third question, but I'll go on the fourth question. They asked what are the strategies we are using instead of the mobile health. So we have differentiated service delivery that we use. We cater for different ages, like as you've heard from my colleague, that this organization, it targets from 0 to 24 years of age, which means that each specific age group, it needs its specific attention. So as CATS, we have been equipped with information on differentiated service delivery. We deliver the information according to the age. We have various means of making sure that a beneficiary has had information on HIV, have had information on SRHR. We make use of the Masasi games, the IEC materials that I was trying to show you. We make use of the comic videos. We make sure that we have support groups, that we meet as young people. We share our thoughts, and we also meet at the communities and involve the caregivers of the beneficiaries so that the support is consistent and there is no lagging anyway. So we don't use mobile support only, but we have various means. We have the differentiated service delivery, and you have seen from the research that it is a delivery that has been researched and has seen that it has given results and has improved in the testing and the adherence and the virus suppression of children and adolescents and young people who are living with HIV in Zimbabwe.
Thank you so much. I'll take two last questions. There's a question
on the strategy
from Ministry of Health.
Oh, okay. So the question is just similar with on mental health. So mainly our role as CATS is to make sure that we mobilize, is to make sure that we refer, is to make sure that we link. So whenever we mobilize, when we are supporting our beneficiary, we make sure that they have the information about PrEP, and we make sure that we refer for them to have PrEP services. So in terms of PrEP, we refer and do follow-ups to ensure and monitor if the beneficiary has received the support that we would have offered to them. So our main role, mainly as CATS, is to mainly refer, link, and also identify the issues that are surrounding children and adolescents and young people who are living with HIV, and make sure that we raise the concerns that the young people are complaining about, or that the young people are raising on all the issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that presentation. Zwandiri, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We can put our hands together for them. Okay. So we'll be going
All right, thank you so much, Zvandi. I think it's, for me, I first came into contact with these young people in Johannesburg, I think 2018, during an international adolescent AIDS workshop. It was very insightful, and from that day, I just loved what they do and the approach they take. The young people are empowered. You can even hear from the language, right? They're talking about monitoring. So you can't run away from this. If you want to be useful and you want to be meaningful in your engagement, you can't run away from those processes. Whoever you're talking to has data. And one tip I always give young people is when it comes to interactions, you have an opportunity to speak to decision makers, people that influence decisions. Don't start with your problems because they have more data about your problems than you ever have. If you tell them about teen pregnancy, they'll give you statistics. They'll even tell you how many fall pregnant every minute. And we don't have that. HIV, they'll break it down for you, give you the data. So start with your solution. Okay? Because once you mention the problem, it's a problem that everyone knows. They just switch off. It's the same old story. But if you start with your innovation, you speak your solution first and you say, this will help us address the following challenges facing the young people today. Then you narrate what the usual challenges are, but you've captured their attention by highlighting your solution or your innovation. Okay, so let's focus more on the solution and refer them to what problems this solution will be addressing. So we have one more presentation just before we go for lunch. I had requested Dr. Dale Menda, who is, I think, is the director of programs at CHAZ, Churches Health Association of Zambia, who are one of our partners. These are the ones who are supporting the work that we are doing in all the provinces. Wherever you saw us come, that was CHAZ support, coming from Global Fund through CHAZ. So we requested him to come and make one presentation. There's a new book that he just wrote, and there is some information there around teen pregnancy and the like. So I did request him. It was short notice. Thank you so much, Doc, for accepting the invitation and making time to come and present here. So I'll hand over to you now. So it's a short presentation. So I'll just request you to pay particular attention. After this, we'll break off for lunch, and then we can carry on from there. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I know you are going for lunch. I'm standing between your lunch and good afternoon. Much better. Yeah, as Sibu said, I'm Dali Menda, and I'm a medical doctor. Youth-friendly medical doctor. And I've spent most of my time interacting with young people, talking to young people, designing programs for young people, writing books for young people. So today I would like to share with you something which is in one of my books, which is entitled A Stem Cell Solution to Teenage Pregnancy. Know the whys and how before you stone them. So I'll talk about assertive compassion. You know, most of the time, I do get questions from young people. They ask me, can you help? Be it in my community, be it at work, be it when we are doing technical support and so on. And you guys, you are gathered here because you need also help. I just saw that video from Zimbabwe. Young people would like to have access to quality, youth-friendly health services. Not to be given a corner, not a youth corner, but the whole facility, isn't it? Not youth-friendly corner. We don't want to give you a corner. We want to give you the whole facility. So it all starts with the 5910 plus. All your issues, all your discussions, whatever we are doing here, is in that 5910 plus. You know what it stands for? 5 minutes of pleasure, 9 months of pregnancy, 1 child, 0 husband, and HIV positive or other complications. "5 minutes of pleasure." And these are the issues we've been discussing about sexual and reproductive health. And you realize that the boy and the girl, when the hormones are going up, the hormones begin to speak louder than the brain. And that 5 minutes is not actually even 5 minutes because it's done in unfinished buildings, in the bush, and you are scared, say they may catch us. So it's not even 5 minutes, by the way. And just that 5 minutes will result into an unintended pregnancy. Do you agree with me? So after the 5, the 9, the 1, the 0, it's actually the girl child, the adolescent girls who are suffering. They will carry the pregnancy alone, isn't it? And when you are a teenage mother, if you have a baby as a teenager, and if that baby is a girl, the chances for that girl to be a teenage mother are very high. And the first pregnancy will cause the second one. You are aware of that. And this baby who is born, babies of teenage mothers are exposed to so many challenges because you are raising this baby under psychological problems. You don't have the finances. You don't have the luxury to buy what the baby wants. This baby will not go to school, will be doomed to poverty. And most of the time they are born premature. They have brain problems and so on. And the one who was telling you, sweetheart, when he sees that pregnancy, what do? These guys, they just disappear. They evaporate. Zero husband. Now, in this plus, there are so many things. When you have your baby at a tender age, you can have vaginal fistulas, isn't it? You can have STIs, you can have HIV, you name it, whatever is surrounding that sex, which was not safe, is in the plus. So this is why we are seated here today. We are here just for the 5910 plus, nothing more. Now, how do we react as parents? How do we react as UNESCO? How do we react? It's to stone you, isn't it? These children, they don't understand, they don't listen. Society is stoning you. Your parents are sending you to the village for you to live with your grandma because they are ashamed their position in the church, in society. You are abandoned. We stone you. Yes or not? We stone you guys. We blame you. And all the evils is we throw stones at you. But what I want you to understand this afternoon is that we should not stone you. I always say that you are but victims of our inefficiencies. Look at your behavior. If you fall pregnant or you abstain, it does not depend solely on you. There are so many factors here. And my book is based on that, what I call the behavior triangle. This is from the latest science on adolescent health, everything around adolescent. All the scientific evidence can be summarized in this. What you are today is coming from your social, cultural, and structural content. The culture, if you are a Tonga or you are in Senga, your behavior will be different. You agree with me? Your tradition, your culture plays a big role. Your religion, if you are a Muslim, if you are an SDA, you are a Jehovah's Witness, a Catholic, and so on, all those things will depend on the foundation that you are having. Your social, cultural, economical, even your parents, the country in which you are born. If you are born in South Sudan, you think that you are going even to come and sit here. Those are the things we need to understand. Where you are born will determine your future trajectory. If we have countries or situations or places which are just going from one war and another, like Syria, or the rape issues. So your foundation, your sex, your ethnicity will determine who you are. And when you look at this, for me, this is key. Because when you are growing up, your relationship with parents will matter a lot. I will talk about it. The other side of the triangle is the individual transformations. You know, what we tend to forget as young people and as programmers, as Sibu, as Mr. Remy there, and so on, is that you young people, how many are below 25 years? Raise your hand. Below 25. You see, I pity you. When you start growing, all those hormones are changing, your shape will change, but we forget about the brain. Our brain grows from, from inside, outside. Are we together? From bottom up, from back to front. Now, this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, this is where we have the cognitive abilities. Are we together? The reasoning, the planning, the management, and everything. Now, the bottom, the lowest part of your brain, this is what we call the limbic system. It matures fast because even in a lizard, have you ever seen a lizard? When you go closer, what do? You don't think. So the limbic system, that is the center of emotions. Are we together? That is the center for instant gratification. You have an exam tomorrow and you have football. Where will you go? Football. That's your limbic system. When you are seated here, you hear a tick. What do? You check. That's your limbic system. It does not think. It acts. But the prefrontal cortex, it reaches maturity towards 25 years. Now, that is your chief executive officer, your CEO. It allows you to look at future consequences of your today's behavior. Just imagine, as a coordinator, you bring a 5-year-old in the place of Sibo. What was going to happen? He will be jumping on table, drinking your water and running. So if I bring a 5-year-old who is jumping around, are you going to say it's abnormal? It's normal, isn't it? Yes or not? Very normal. So when I look at you with a prefrontal cortex which is not matured, if I see you having unprotected sex, smoking, drinking, is it normal or abnormal? It's normal. You are not matured. Your cognitive brain is not yet fully matured. You can't see tomorrow's consequences of your today's behavior. That's why we can give you IC materials. I can talk from morning to evening. You just listen to your limbic system. The other thing is the personality trait. That is very important. Each one has a personality. And if we ignore our personalities, we cannot achieve much in our programming. Now, let me go to the last portion, the social capital, transitions. You guys who are seated here, you are coming from a family, isn't it? In your family, you establish bonds with your parents, with your relatives. But which type of bonds? You know, I lecture at the University of Lusaka. I lecture reproductive health, maternal, and so on. Most of my students tell me that we don't communicate with our parents. Do you? Very little. Why? This is what we need to understand. And most of you, when you speak or you interact with your parents, they will give you names They will insult you. They say you are useless, isn't it? So by doing that, they are wounding you. And most of the young people's behavior today is being guided by the wounded child in you. You are going to be doing things you don't understand, but it's because you were wounded in your childhood. You know, there's another small book here entitled In Search for My Lost Self. Most of us, we don't know who we are. Yes. If you are coming from a family where your dad ran away, or let's say your mom went away with another man, and you were brought up by your dad, and you suffer a lot. You know what is going to happen when you fall in love for the first time, you have a small boyfriend? You are going to look at your boyfriend as a figure dad, and he's going to abuse you. You enjoy because you didn't have a figure dad in your life. So that is the wounded child I'm talking about. So most of our behaviors, we need to understand where they are coming from. Not just to sit here, agree, way forward. No. We should reconcile with the child who was wounded in us. If you were raped age 4, you have to reconcile. If you were abused, if you were insulted, people tell you that you are not good in biology, and somebody's opinion will become your reality. You need to reconcile. Once you leave your home, you establish bridges with the school, with the community. If you have a bad teacher, you have bad companies, people bullying you, it will affect you. And you go to the connections with social media, with all those things, they will take you to Japan, to China, you name it. And that is having a toll. It's influencing you. Do you agree with me? So what we need to understand is your behavior is determined by your social, cultural, structural context, your biological or individual transformations, and the social capital transitions. It's a transition. If it's not smooth, you pay the price. Now, it's not moving, right? What is the... Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so why did I talk about assertive compassion? You've seen that guy in red, eh? He's going against the flow. This is based on the story in the Bible in John 8. An adulterous woman was brought to the Lord Jesus Christ. He said, we caught her red-handed committing adultery. You know that story, yeah? And the people surrounding the woman with stones. He said, we want to stone her. The Lord stooped down and started writing in the sand. And he told them, the one who has no sin here, let him throw the first stone. Do you know what happened? They started moonwalking and running away one by one. You know what happened there? The Lord Jesus Christ stood for that woman. It does not mean that he accepted what she did, because he told her that, woman, go and sin no more. But he had the courage to stand against the group, everyone, and defend this woman. I will ask you a question. That woman committed adultery, yes or not? Now, what is the issue? Is it the woman or the adultery? So how can you stone adultery? Now tell me. No, when you are stoning, are you stoning the woman or the adultery? So this is just to tell you that we as programmers, we are fixing stem cell complicated problems with technical solutions. It's not about the woman. It's about the adultery. So we need to deal with the adultery. It's not you. It's the beer. Yeah. It's the drinking. It's not about you. Because today, you are a drunkard. Tomorrow you stop, you become normal. Will we still stone you? So you see how we are misplacing our interventions. So this is just to tell you that we need that compassion, assertive. You stand against everyone and tell people what they don't want to listen to hear. Because they started examining themselves. You say, oh, Chigororo, I remember last Monday, I'm gone. So they were guilty. We are guilty. You are also guilty. Do you agree with me? All of us seated here, we are guilty. UNESCO is guilty. All of us. Charles is guilty. All of us. So we need to find a solution. So this is why that book is about knowing the why. Why are our young people behaving the way they are behaving? And how can we address that? We are here, this conference, this forum is here to help you. And for us to help you, we need to understand you. And the best way of solving is in that. Do you know what is a stem cell? A stem cell is a cell which is still growing and which can take the function of anything. It can go in the heart, in the liver, anywhere. Are we together? So that's the solution that we want. What we want here, I need to stand here, is that the parents, they have a role to play. Do you agree with me? They are part of the solution. The teachers, the educators, they have a role to play. Do you agree with me? The community members, they have a role to play. The media people, those who are pushing on social media pornographic movies, things which are not really good for you, they have a role to play. The government officials, the policymakers, they have a role to play. The businessmen, business entities, they have a role to play. The preachers, the church leaders. You know, I'm just from a meeting with some bishops this morning. We were discussing the issue of comprehensive sexuality education. I told them that we cannot run away from it. We need to help our young people. And I told them that what's wrong? We are trying to avoid certain things. We need to face the situation. So people in the pulpit have a role to play. The traditional leaders, they have a role to play. Initiation ceremony. How many here underwent the initiation ceremony? How many? No, the traditional one, where they teach you how to have sex. How many? Sibu, your people are going underground. How many underwent initiation ceremony? Oh, you have not yet matured. Eh? So the traditional leaders, they have a role to play. The young people, you guys have a role to play. Do you agree with me? And this is why you are here, because you have a role to play. The medical people, the doctors, as we have also a role to play. So the solutions to your issues will not come from young people alone. They will not come to health workers alone. We need a stem cell solution, the whole child, or family, or society. Then we'll solve your issues. You can come and cry, you go home, you are slapped by your dad. Kwasila say, who told you to go to that Sibu meeting? You know, so we need to understand that. Can we? I think I'm at the end of. So, in summary, is to say that it's in my book. Here, I will discuss with Sibu to see how I can donate a free copy to all of you. I didn't finish. A free copy, but soft copy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Efo tufaye fi. Bakopa bali kwisa. Efo tufaye fi ayin. Edi ashili. Okay. I know some of you have questions, but allow me to get the questions later on. We go for lunch. We are behind time, so have lunch for 30 minutes. I hope Doc is still around. There are some questions they'll ask you later. Okay, he's now leaving. Okay, 3 questions. 3 burning questions. 3.
Does the book address the issue of antisocial?
Thank you. This book is very comprehensive, and you'll find most of your issues inside there. It's talking about parenting, how a father should parent his children. It's talking about the benefits of religion. You know, we go to church, but we don't know the benefits. So it's addressing everything. I told you this is based on the latest science on adolescent health. The hard copy, we'll discuss later. Yeah.
The second question.
Doc, how can you help someone with a wounded background or child background to get to the normal thinking? Because I'm one of them.
You are one of them. What is that small book? I will give her this. That is a very good question. I've been doing this with my students, with so many people, to try to meet who you are today, to reconcile and meet the child in you who is frozen in time. And you realize that some people, you may be here, you realize that you don't want to mix with people, or you are struggling with your opinion here. You'd like to contribute, but invest in, no, keep quiet, you can't. People look at you. And when you look back, you realize that in your childhood, your parents did not give you an opportunity to air out or to speak, to give your opinion. They were oppressing you, beating you, so that has wounded you. And even if you are seated here, for you to contribute, you have to struggle with yourself. No, look at the way they are looking at you. You just keep quiet. You embarrass yourself. That is a struggle between you and the wounded child in you. So I will give you this copy.
Thank you so much. The last question. The last question.
Doctor, my name is Clayton, and Clayton Majulu, and I have a question.
Yes.
In terms of parents, when they report to you about their child and the behavior, how do you counsel the mother and the father and the child?
Great question. You know, right now, we are training a group of young people, not as chairs, because I do it also for my community. And the direction we have taken, we don't just deal with the young people, because you will be knowledgeable. When you go home, your parents are still ignorant. I have to tell you that we adults are ignorant. I have to tell you, parents. Now, what we do is to train the child-parent pair. We have sessions where the parents are seated and the children are seated, and we discuss issues. So the best solution is to bring back to the table, because today, me, I'm a parent. I have 2 children. They are grown up. Now, one day, my son, my firstborn, he was in grade 4 in Nyanje village. Do you know where Nyanje village is? I spend most of my time in the village in Eastern Province. He came home running and said, Dad, what is sperm? Grade 4. So that question pushed me to start writing books for adolescents and young people who have no parents, who cannot answer their questions. So it's key to bring back the parenting. I've never gone to school to learn how to parent. It's something that we need. You guys need it so that you don't make our mistakes. With time, I kept on calling my children to say, forgive me, because I made so many mistakes. I also wounded my children. And I'm trying to build that to recover, because nobody ever told me how to parent. They will push you to have more children, but they will not tell you how to parent. And that's why we need the two. In the Bible, when you read Proverbs 6, from verse 20, it says, the father is with the command and the mother is the light, is the teaching. The teaching is with the mothers. Me, if I'm on a phone call for 1 hour and my wife asked me, what was it about? No, he was greeting you. But if my wife is on the phone for 1 hour, I ask, what was it about? To be another 1 hour. She will narrate to me all the conversations. To tell you that in a home, you need the two. The mother with the teaching and the father with the command. Who come and shout at you. The mother say, you know your dad. You know, they complement each other. So we need the two.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those questions and the answers that have come. Okay, so some of you have been given coupons. Those that have been given coupons, you are going the other side, the other room. Lunch will be for 30 minutes. 30 minutes should be 30 minutes. So those with coupons, please, you can go the other side. If you haven't been given a coupon, you are having your lunch in here. 30 minutes.
Does indeed.